Hey guys, to help run the forums, host the website, and travel, we've introduced a universal service fee for in-depth coverage, including this video. My goal is to be unbiased and transparent. It's a privilege to serve you. This is not an endorsement. Let's get into it. Hey guys, it's a gorgeous day in Arizona. I'm visiting my dad, and I thought this would be a cool chance to go over a product called the CycloTrac GPS bike security from a company called Boomerang Bike. I actually reviewed this in 2017 and I thought it was a neat product, but it wasn't perfect. Like, I had some considerations. Definitely the price was one of them. It was $199 and it was like $5 a month for tracking, because it actually goes through the 2G network on Verizon. That kind of adds up, $199. On the other hand, this thing alerts you if the bike gets moved, and it sort of tracks the bike if it does in fact get stolen. And it's not just bikes. You could put this in a car or in like a briefcase or backpack or something like that. It's very cool, and because it's a little bit bigger and it has like little LED lights that flash and stuff, I think it's a deterrent. In recent years, they've made some big improvements, and price is one of them. So it's $25 now for the V1, and that's what we're looking at here. That's significantly less than $199. I mean, that's $25, and then the monthly price is like $3.90. They do charge 3-month blocks, so you can't really just go month to month. But still, I mean, very reasonable. It's kind of like, that when you look at a bike like this is my dad's Stromer, $5,000+ bike. Even I rarely see electric bikes that are less than $1,000 or a couple thousand if it's kind of decent. So it's like, why not try $25 product like this? So they had actually reached out to me, the Boomerang Bike people, and they said, we've made some little improvements, in part based on some of the critical feedback I had on the original review, and the price is a little bit lower and stuff, and they've got more use data from other organizations, including Stanford University, which has used these on electric bikes that they're kind of the maintenance crew and staff at the university are using to get around, and they wanted to track their carbon offset. So that's one of the other cool things this does. There's an online web application that shows you a heat map of where you've been riding. It also shows you how much carbon dioxide you've offset, and even your savings in dollars. So it kind of estimates those things. Very, very cool. And then there's a smartphone app for your phone as well, and that's how you arm it and everything. So there's a lot to go over here. I'm just going to jump in and do a little bit of an unboxing here for you. So this is what it looks like. Pretty slim, efficient, sustainable packaging. I have already undone the zip tie. There was a zip tie that was holding through these two bottle cage holes here, and there's a nice rubberized edge and then some rubber on the bottom, so if you do mount this directly to the frame, it's not going to rattle quite as much. A little bit of rubber on top, so if you mount a bottle cage on top of it, that's also going to be benefiting from a little bit of cushion there. So it would mount below this bottle cage, and in this case there's still plenty of room in this main triangle to mount it right there. They do sell for just $12 like a rack mount thing, and this rack wouldn't work because it's such a slim sort of minimalist design, but anyone that has like an extra strut here, you can mount it to your rack, and then they also have a way to mount it to your chainstay on the left hand side. This bike, it might be a little bit crowded. You could kind of get creative with where you put it. You just want it somewhat securely mounted to the frame, and that's what these security bolts are for. So here's the rest of the package. Got a 6-foot USB charging cable right here, and then these two security like star bolts that go through, and they're tall enough to accommodate not only the Boomerang itself, this little CycloTrac device, but also bottle cage bosses, or maybe you've got a mini pump or some other folding lock, some other accessory. So that's pretty cool. And being star bolts, be a little bit trickier for a would-be thief to try to remove this thing. So that's it. That's the device. It's pretty lightweight, 5 ounces here, 0.3 pounds. It's about 10 inches long, maybe 3/4 of an inch thick. You get the idea. They used to have a white one but apparently it wasn't popular enough, so they sort of moved completely to black with the little orange accents and stuff. Talking about V1, I mentioned that this is using Verizon for their tracking and their GPS signaling, which is pretty cool. Verizon has a good network, we've all seen the commercials and stuff. I actually drove with this in my car just to test it and kind of like left it on, and I was driving from Colorado to Arizona just doing my cross-country trips, and it did track, and I could see that on the heat map, and that was really cool. However, I never actually armed the device. So this was just sort of general tracking mode, which is like lower energy use. And in that mode, it can last a month and a half. Once you enable the alarm mode, it's signaling every 15 seconds or something, and it sounds like it lasts about a day or something in that mode. So charging this thing is one of the areas for me that's sort of a question mark, and I'm actually not too stoked on the little cover. It looks really nice right now. See how well that's seated and stuff, but as soon as you pull it up and you plug in right there using a micro USB cable, getting this little cover to sit again and look nice, it's really hard, and the edges kind of, see how there's like rubber on both the top and the bottom? It sort of like gets pushed in, and I spent a lot of time just trying to line that up just for the photos and just to show you that. So I feel like, that's a bummer for such a nice looking piece of hardware. It'd be nice if this little rubber piece seated easier, but it is possible. It just takes some more time. So imagine this. You've got this, it's bolted with security hardware to your down tube, just like that. You've got a 6-foot cable. You need to get your bike within 6 feet of like a USB outlet to charge this thing on like a daily basis if you're arming it every day. Okay, otherwise, you're gonna need something like this. This is just my, little portable power bank. So you'd charge this up, and then you'd set this on your seat or next to your bike, and you'd have to charge from this to take power from there to there. So it's not super duper convenient, but I don't know if I would actually be leaving my bike armed all day long. I feel like I would disarm it with the app, ride around for a while, park, arm it for an hour or two, come back out, disarm it. So it's pretty cool. The mobile app works fairly well. But remember that road trip I was talking about? I'm driving across the country. I wanted to see like where I was and how far and how much carbon offset, and it didn't work out quite as seamlessly as I had hoped. Ultimately, it sort of lost track halfway through, and again, that's because it's not armed. It's more like motion sensitive in those moments. So when I first packed my car up, I closed the trunk and it's like beep, and it's like I'm awake, and then as long as you're moving, it stays awake and it's tracking. But then I went and got a meal, and sat down, and I came back out to my car, and my car is so smooth and efficient, I guess, it didn't set off like, I didn't slap it, right? It basically just stopped tracking for a while. And then I went and got some gas, and then I must have closed the trunk or done something that alerted again. So it came back on, and you can see that the heat map started again. So it was kind of like, it's sort of on and off. But again, that's in like the disarmed mode. And I feel like this thing is always active. Like as long as it's charged, you're gonna get these little blinking lights once the motion detection happens. Otherwise, it sort of eventually shuts off if no motion is detected. There's no on-off button on this thing, and maybe that's part of the security design. And one of my complaints about V1 before some of these updates was that this little button on the side of the unit, if you press that, it would just reset the unit, and it was like, why is it doing that? Now they've changed the design, so if you press it, like it sets off the alarm. So that's it. Some thief is trying to be quiet. They're trying to be, efficient, and maybe they press that, or they're curious, and it sets it off, and then eventually it turns itself off, right? So that's a nice little upgrade. And one thing they're working on for February, March 2019 is that this button is going to alert emergency contacts. So let's say that you're out on your bike, and heaven forbid you take a spill, and you're hurt and you can't get back on your bike. You can reach over to this thing and you can press that button, and not only will the alarm thing go off, but it's gonna send out signals, and it's gonna email people on your contact list and say, hey, Court might be hurt. We got a notification that you pressed that button. Now, that's all well and good theoretically. But what happens when you leave this at the bike rack at school and people are kind of messing with it? And then it's like, Court might be hurt and you're going to give your parents a heart attack. So it's like, I don't know, I'm kind of mixed on that one. And I've been talking to people at the company and actually sharing some of my own thoughts. And it's like, well, as long as you're emailing family, maybe you should be emailing the owner too, or maybe even texting me and giving me an alert. And they were like, yeah, we're working on that. So this is something that we'll roll out for V1 and V2. And I think that's kind of neat. As it stands, you would get an email and a text message anytime the device is armed, and then the bike starts to move. So that's sort of the main use case. One of the things they talk about, and the reason that it's 10 inches long here, is because it's got some nice antennas, and it's a little bit more accurate than some of the devices that are meant to hide in your stem or below your seat that can't communicate up. This one's front and center, and it's not blocked. Even if it's back here in a bag or something, it's going to be it's going to have better reception. So it's pretend it's right there. You can see where your bike's at and just get an idea in case it was stolen or you just forgot where your bike is. You can see that I've burned 17 calories today, and over 1,000 year to date. Offset 9 kilograms of carbon, saved 2 gallons of gas. It's pretty neat to get that feedback. Well, I've been experimenting with a few different bikes, and I mounted the CycloTrac to my stump jumper, which has a really cool sort of slope top tube, and even the down tube, you can see at the bottom here, it's a bit angled. I have mounted it sort of in the top part being a little bit longer upwards, but it's still not quite short enough to fit without being kind of elevated. So I also tried to mount my bottle cage on top of it, and it just didn't work. And try as I might in kind of positioning, I wanted to demonstrate this because I think in most cases you've got a situation like this where there is just plenty of clearance, plenty of room to mount that thing, lots of space. And then I wanted to get in here and just measure this for you and provide some sort of data feedback. So, if you look at that top screw, we're looking at looks like 4.5 inches, maybe 110 millimeters from the top bolt. And then on the bottom, if we go to the very bottom there, it looks like about 3 inches, 80 millimeters or so. So yeah, keep that in mind if you're in a position like this. And this is one of the problems or the challenges that the V2 is going to solve, because it's kind of like shorter on top and only the top part. There's a little eyelet at the bottom and then one sort of in the middle of the device. So it's definitely shorter. I think about 5.5 inches. And again, while we're doing this, I just want to demonstrate on camera here. Yeah, it's about 10 inches long from top to bottom, 255 millimeters in length, and then that thickness there, when all is said and done, it's it's close to that inch, maybe 3/4 inch. So just keep that in mind. I wanted to go over the scenarios too while we got the bikes just standing up against the wall. This first scenario is that you've got the CycloTrac mounted to your bike, it's not charged up, and the battery is dead. It's been sitting for more than a month and a half, and nothing happens, which would be a bummer. It'd just be connected to the bike. Someone would have to have that special tool to get it off. Maybe visually it says anti-theft GPS, and that might be enough right there just to spook a would-be thief. So that's scenario one. Keep this thing charged, avoid the extreme temperatures, the extreme heat, the extreme cold. It could be hard on that lithium polymer cell. Scenario two is that you do have it charged up, and that's what we've got right now. So it's charged up and it's tracking, but it's not armed. Okay, so it's just kind of hanging out. And this is the state where it can sit for, they said, a month and a half if it's just in sort of this standby mode. And then as soon as you kind of move the bike, it activates and starts tracking. So I was moving it a moment ago, but if you leave it for 5-10 minutes, it goes off, it goes to sleep, and you'd hear it like beep, and then it'd go into this tracking mode right here. So even though there's no siren happening or anything, I can actually pull up my mobile phone, open up the Boomerang app, and it says okay. Kind of pulls up a map and it says there you are. You can even say find my bike, and it zooms in and you can kind of scroll the map around, and that's pretty accurate. That's where we're hanging out right now, so that's pretty cool. It gives me all the feedback. Alternatively, so that's scenario two. You're using the battery just very lightly, only when the device is moved or tapped, kind of wakes up And that's what I did when I did the cross-country trip. And then the third scenario is you set that alarm. So I'm going to say turn the alarm on. Yep, let's do it. Activate, and it takes a second, kind of syncs through. And we look at those colored flashing lights there. We've got the gear and then the target. And we're waiting for the red one to appear next to the lock. Second one down from the top. So we're still waiting here. There we go. There we go. It just turned on. So now we've got that lock, and the bike is now tracking. And this is where they said it lasts about 8 hours in this mode. So that's enough to leave it out kind of all day. If you were at work or working an 8-hour day, the bike is actively tracking. It's pinging every 15 seconds. It's pretty alert. I'm going to hop on the bike now and just go for a little ride and see what happens. We'll simulate a theft. So someone comes over to the bike rack. Hopefully they see this thing. That's the idea. It's really big. Maybe they're cutting the lock and they're trying to take your bike, and then they start to walk away with it like this. There we go. So it took a second, but the alarm went off, and then it says, alert, your Boomerang CycloTrac has registered an alarm. Your bicycle may have been tampered with. You should go check on it. So it's not super instantaneous, but it does work. And at some point, if the thief is kind of tampering with this thing, it does have an accelerometer built in, so just any little movement sets it off. I have noticed that it's pretty sensitive, especially in the unarmed mode. It'll be sitting there charging, and I'll just bump the bed or whatever, and that's enough to set it off. So that's sort of the premise. If we think about workarounds for this, a thief could just recognize this and try to smash it, but when they do that, then it stops checking in. And if it's in armed mode, that would trigger an alert and let the owner know, like, hey, something's going on with your... Yeah, see, it's still kind of going off, and I think it's going to keep doing that and sending me these updates. Yep, there's another alert, until I disarm it. Okay, I'm not going to disarm it. I'm going to see how long this thing goes. So anyway, a would-be thief could try to smash this thing or disable it, but in so doing, it alerts that accelerometer and it sends you a message. So I feel like it's pretty tamper resistant. You'd need to have that special screwdriver. You'd need to know what this thing was, and even one alert message goes out, even if they were able to destroy that's going to alert you via text and via email, so you can come out here and you can kind of rescue your bike before it goes away. And there are a lot of other devices out there on the market, like the little tile thing. You put it on your remote control so that you don't lose your TV remote at your house or whatever. But that all relies, I think, on like a Bluetooth, and it has to be within a certain range of your smartphone. So you're paying $500, $1,000 or whatever for a smartphone, and a lot of the technology's in here. Whereas with the Boomerang CycloTrac, this thing has a Verizon cell phone chip in it. I mean, that's pretty awesome, and that's going to make it a little bit smarter, so it doesn't have to be near your phone to work. This thing could be taken across the state, and it's going to be checking in the whole way. Yep, and there we go. So it's still chiming, and I think I'm just guessing here, but I think they probably set the intervals and kind of space them apart so that it wouldn't drain all of its battery chiming the alarm, because it's also sending signals right now. It's checking in, giving us an idea on the map. Look at all these messages that are coming in. It's like, hey, check your bike, something's going on. That's pretty sweet. And then we're back here. You can see the little icon is red now because my bike is kind of being stolen. So let's go for a little ride and see what happens now. If we can track the bike. There we go. We are off. Yeah, still sirening. Still alerting. Hey there. Lots of cute dogs around here. Just a beautiful day to steal a bike, right? Okay, there we go. There's another message. So I guess it seems like it's happening more frequently now because I'm like actively moving. So it's probably sounding off and really recognizing that movement. Let's go back. Oh, there we go. We got a little update on the map. It looked like it refreshed. Let's see, find my bike. Oh, there we go. So the map just updated. Now it has another marker. So as I continue to move, we've got new markers appearing on the map. It creates like a breadcrumb trail for where the bike is going, where it's been. That's pretty cool. So far today we've burned 25 calories. It's cool. So I'm gonna go to try to set the alarm, turn that alarm off, deactivate. Mission complete. Pretty cool. It's always fun to experiment with these things and just try to figure out those edge cases, whether it's physical compatibility or the scenarios of what could happen. I think this is a neat device. I feel like the CycloTrac company is, instead of putting more metal into this and bigger locks and stuff, they're trying to kind of outsmart things and figure out how to create accountability. Thought we turned it off. Between the audible alarm and then some of the branding and information on the casing, I feel like it makes your bike not the weakest link all of a sudden. It's sort of like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't want to be tracked. I'm going to move on to another bike. And for $25 and $3 or $4 a month, that's not too bad. It's pretty neat. Rather than throwing a ton of extra money into like locks and chains and stuff, they can be kind of heavy. Get yourself a good lock, rely on that. But then something like this, this is really the only device I've seen that offers this sort of functionality. It seems like they're doing a good job. They're improving it, giving you things like listening to feedback, whether it's how that button performs or the size with the new V2 and LTE. I'm excited about that. Maybe you own this, or you've got a friend who does, or you have some feedback, some other tests or something you'd like to see. Please chime in. I always appreciate that. I'll do my best to respond, and I'll check in with the company and I'll update the written review back at ElectricBikeReview.com, where I've got some images and other specs, measurements and stuff to help you see if this is compatible with your bike. Have fun out there, ride safe, and I actually have one other thing I want to share with you. I'm just going to zip back to the house real quick. Okay, guys, we made it back. The final thing I wanted to call out is that Roger was really generous with this. He said, gosh, I haven't used this bike for a while. He just got a new one, kind of upgrading, and he said, I'd be happy to donate this to someone who's in need, maybe someone who can't afford it, or homeless, or a young person or something. And I thought that was really cool, so I offered to mention it here on the channel. So if you live in Peoria or Glendale, kind of Sun City, Arizona, even Phoenix, if you can get here, if you can drive and put this in your car, this is a pretty nice bike. Townie from Electra, which is now owned by Trek. He even had the extra tube and the manual. I mean, this guy is really taking pretty good care of it. I know it looks a little dusty. It's got a 3-speed internally geared hub, Shimano Nexus, little upgrades like the light and the computer. So anyway, if you're someone or you know someone who needs an extra bike, you live in this area, chime in the comments, try to get this thing into someone's hands so you can head out there and enjoy the nice weather and get some exercise and make some friends. So anyway, I think that's it. I'll see you back at the website. Appreciate the feedback and everything. I love you guys. Be safe. Take care.